Hello, so I'll be running you guys through a 5.3 gigahertz overclock on a 10900K with a B490 motherboard. So you can see my posted frequency is 5304 with my DRAM frequency at 4284. Target cache frequency is 4794. My BLK frequency is at 102, which will cause all those numbers to be a little odd. I am running Asus multi-core enhancement to remove all limits. I have my AI overclocker set to manual, disable spread spectrum from BCLK. I have my SVID set to best case scenario. And I'm going to have my AVX instructions set to 0 so my offset does not change my frequency. You're going to lock all cores and set your multiplier. I have it set to 52, and with my bus I will multiply that to 53, adding 100. As you see, it applies it to 5304, adding that 100 megahertz. And you're going to want to keep your OC tuner to keep current settings, power saving mode to performance mode. And in DRAM timing control, I have my RAM settings, which we'll go over later. My load line calibration set to 6 just for better stability. I had a little bit too much feed droop under heavy load while gaming / streaming. And you're going to want to leave this on disabled, set your CPU current capability to 170% so you've got no limitations. And then we don't really have to affect any of the other settings in here, and you can just back out. In an internal CPU power plan, you're going to want to set your temperature, and you're going to set all of your limits to the max, and do not touch AC load line or DC load line. Those affect your power extremely, and you do not want to fry your stuff, so do not touch those. You're going to set your TVB and all this crap, just disable all of it. You do not need any of these limitations. They will just clip your frequency. You don't need to worry about this, your offset here. And an AI tweaker, only thing I've set is my FLK frequency when I power on. I haven't noticed if this creates any more frequent posts or fixes any issues, but that's what I have it set to. So for my ring down, we do have the ring down disabled and my minimum set to 46 and my maximum to 47. They do multiply with that 102 bus, so they are 48 and 47. Well, almost, it'll be like 4786 or 4796. My BLK adaptive, you do not want that on. Disable it. It will just add more voltage when you don't want it and take. I have my CPU core voltage set to 1.435. Was the most stable I was able to get at 5.3 gigahertz. And I will post my 5.2 voltages in the next video. My DRAM voltage I have set at 1.5 as I am running B-die Patriot RAM. So if you are confident you have B-die RAM, then you can set it to 1.45 or even crank it up to 1.5 if you have good case flow. Do monitor your temperatures as best you can, and yeah, it should be good as long as you have B-die. Do not overclock any other like C-die or A-die. They stop at like 1.2, 1.25 or something, like very low. My CPU VCC IO I have at 1.2. I didn't have really any issues with that one, but the system agent voltage I wasn't able to get below 1.9, so I bumped it up a 0.1 degree or decimal point just to get it a little more stable. PCH core voltage, I just have this set at a static number that's like within reason of what was already running, just because these auto settings always like to just add too much voltage where it's not needed, so I just like to limit that. And for the AI tweaker, I think that's about it. Before you back out, you're going to want to just check over some of your settings, make sure you've applied the right things, and then you can make your way to the advanced mode. If you did want to know anything about the DRAM timings, I will go further into that if you guys would like on the next video. here is my current settings for the amusement. My timings aren't that great, don't worry. Oh, don't forget, make sure you have this at its cranked max. So mine's 448. Even though these might be disabled, you just want to make sure that they are maxed out. Okay, so in CPU configuration, you're going to want to scroll down and make sure you set your TCC offset time window and disable that. I took forever to find this one feature that was limiting my frequency and kept clipping me, and it's so annoying. I had no video told me to turn this shit off. Turn this fucking shit off. You do not need it. All it does is clip your frequency. Frequency clipping. That's enough right there. Okay, so you can leave all these other ones on what they were set to. I have my VMX disabled. You're going to want to disable speed step, speed shift technology. Leave your turbo mode on. You're going to want to disable CPU states, and tau boost is disabled on my motherboard out of the box. If you have a turbo boost 3.0, disable that, but do not disable turbo mode. That will result in your CPU going to its base clock frequency and not trying to achieve its fastest. So mine was 3.7. But that should be everything. Play around with lower voltages to see if you can get some better frequencies or better voltages at the same frequency, and let me know what you guys get. Just opening up hardware info and just getting my scaling right here so you can see what I'm looking at. So as we are at 5.3 on all cores, and just as it's showing there, my minimum and maximum and average and current are all very similar. With those current settings, it will not fluctuate even under load. And my ring clock I have set a little bit lower than 200 megahertz below normal. Some applications were just opening in the background. My idle temperatures are usually around 38 to 30 to 40 degrees. And in game, it sits around 58 to 66 degrees. I am looking into bigger cooling solutions for this overclock for long-term use, honestly. And as you can see on the motherboard and CPU, I have no errors clipping, no frequency clippings. And if you want to check your CPU core voltage, it's going to be under V core, and you can see your minimum maximum there. The core vid is what your CPU is requesting from your motherboard / power supply, so don't really worry about that. You can just reference for what stable numbers you might need to achieve that clock speed you're trying, if it wasn't stable. And once again, just worry about your temperatures and check to see if you have any limitations clipping your frequency, and check through the settings to make sure you got it all good. And here's my timings for my RAM if you guys were curious at all. Once again, thanks for stopping in. I hope this guys helped you with your overclocking. It helped me get way more frames than I ever expected in Warzone and other games.